All right, what is going on, everyone, and welcome back to the Mets Weekly Podcast as we are live at this very moment on YouTube and on X to recap the Mets versus Cardinals 4-game set, as well as all of the latest news and rumors going on in New York Mets land. But before we do that, I want to remind everyone to subscribe to the Mets Weekly YouTube channel if you have not already, for new episodes of our show that are recorded live after every single series of games during the regular season. For those of you watching or listening on playback, you want to join the conversation in the future, make sure to turn on our post notifications to know when we go live. For those of you in the live chat right now, we love reading your comments, your questions, your concerns, all that great stuff regarding this team at this very moment live with us. If you feel like you're being ignored, you're not being ignored, you're just being starred throughout the show. We'll try to pull up as many as we can to keep the flow of the conversation going. Make sure to follow Mets Weekly on X and on TikTok for Frank's instant post-game reactions after every regular season game, titled The Mets Frankly Postgame. For our audio listeners, make sure to follow us on all your favorite listening platforms to not miss the audio version of new episodes that go up at 9 a.m. the following day. Also, make sure to give us a 5-star review. That would be greatly appreciated. So without further ado, let's get into episode number 128 of our show. Frank, you are here as well as usually are. One thing I can say off the bat, better. Lot better. Let's just say that. Better result, better in general. They looked great. They played a lot better of a fluent baseball game. Obviously, we'll get into the specifics and everything, but a lot more encouraging as compared to what we saw in Minnesota, where for majority of that series, I think they were lost. They were all over the place, and they were looking for something to grasp for. But they get it done. 4-game sweep. Pretty big.
Yeah, I mean, you didn't have to lose your replays. You didn't have to run to the wrong bases. You didn't have to argue with umpires. I mean, like you said, a lot of the stuff that was bothering us last time around, not so much this time. But, I mean, one thing I will say is that now we are getting closer to the end of April, more than the halfway mark. And a lot of things are still holding consistent, though. There are some things that are consistently, I've said before, but consistently good, consistently bad. So we are more and more finding out what this team is, and what we thought it was going into the season is not what it's been. So, I mean, that's just kind of how it goes with the Mets a lot of times, is that we thought pitching was maybe a bit of a weakness, especially with the injuries. It started to still be very, very good. As far as the hitting, we thought maybe a little more power. It hasn't quite happened just yet. You're starting to see some guys break out of it a little bit, but not what you originally had thought of when you were thinking about what this team was going to do in the home run department going into the year. So we'll see how these things continue to shake out. But, so far, like we always say, you also have to beat who's on the schedule. The games aren't won on paper. There still are times where you have beatable opponents that you lose games. So a team like the Cardinals that has been struggling, they're under 500. You sweep the 4-game set. That's really big. So, now they go into this huge series with the Philadelphia Phillies, a nice test early in the year. And this is going to be the first time that they're going to play a top 10 team, not just in the National League, but in all of Major League Baseball. So this will really show, give us more of a sense of what this team is, and kind of what do they need to improve on, and what they have been really good at. So I want to see how this kind of evolves, how it unfolds. They have the home crowd behind them. I've been very proud that Mets fans have been in huge attendance, especially over this past weekend, considering that it's April. I mean, I believe they're sold out this past Saturday, and that's against the Cardinals, not like a Braves series or Phillies or anything crazy like that. So that's very encouraging, and I hopefully keep it up. I mean, it gives them a little extra boost, and if they're in first place right now, you got to continue to support them. So this definitely was an encouraging series for sure.
Yeah, obviously, again, I'm not here to just completely overreact to April results as I am just the overall process, as I've talked about this before. 162 games is a lot, and we say this a lot all the time. They have to continue to play the games. And even though, we've seen some consistent measures being taken constantly, I think that, I'd like to see the full product still. I'm still waiting on the full product. I'm still waiting out here and saying, okay, well, I don't think they're at their best yet, and I think that there will be eventually their best. But there are some things that are going to have to, be picked up, and there are some things that are going to have to be pieced together, as I say all the time. I think I was a lot more confident in this pitching staff than a lot of people going into this season, mainly just because of the offset of names that I think kind of put on the disapproval of Mets fans. I personally just saw it as something that we're going to wait to address not in bulk, but in premium at the trade deadline. And I think when you look at this pitching staff, you're going to see truly what they are made of against a Phillies team that does know how to hit. They are a dangerous Phillies team, and they have some hitters that are on fire, and we'll get into that eventually. But when it comes to this pitching staff right here, I don't need anybody to be a world beater. I don't need to see shiny ERAs or shining stat lines. Just keep us in the game. That's it.
But they do have shiny ERAs, though. I mean, they
do,
are the
and that's
best.
great.
So that's good.
And that's great. But it's also April. So again, just keep me in the game. We'll take this one by one, and that's what we're going to see going forward. So hopefully it continues. I'm hoping that it does because I do think that there is talent in this rotation, and there's going to be some more talent on the way that eventually will come back from injury. They're just going to have to hold the fort down. It's all really about quantity right now. Arms that can exist, arms that can survive until a certain point into this season. And that's the main reason as why I didn't panic over this starting rotation going into the year. There is the reason why I did not panic over some other, types of things of spring trading nature. I'm sure we'll get into, the things that I'm not really taking as much to heart going into this game. Now, going into this part of the season. Obviously, there has been things that I have not liked. We were not really happy with a lot of what happened last episode. But these are things that can be changed. We know that this team is capable of changing. I don't think it's a do or die situation when we talk about things in April, but at some point, they're going to catch up to you. And to see the Mets do something that I said last episode, known as use your head, they did it a lot better in this series. So again, that was a piece of improvement. Hopefully it continues. Hopefully, we see some guys lead by example a little bit better than what we saw in Minnesota, which was a mess. But overall, from a 4-game sweep, which do not happen often, it was an impressive showing in front of the home fans. Sometimes, because in these 4-game sets, you get letdowns. It happens, like that. That's the thing. You're not going to win every single one of them, but they did. And they definitely outplayed the Cardinals in every single one of these games, because we have seen the Mets win some games this year so far where they got outplayed. And you know that good teams find a way to win, and good teams always find a way to win. And maybe this is a good team. We don't know, like you said, this identity. We don't know what it is going to be until they face some of the more upper tier teams. And I think, this is going to be the first test against a Phillies team, which, after the last time we saw them, maybe they're a little bit angry. Who knows?
Could be. I mean, it definitely was a good series last year, but the Phillies, it's really hard. They've had a weird season so far as well, because I don't know if they've necessarily improved with what they did during the offseason. I mean, you look at what's happened in the bullpen for them with Jordan Romano. I mean, they wanted him to close games for them. But, I mean, the guy, he's got an ERA of 15. You let Jeff Hoffman go in free agency, who was really good for you last year. Yeah. And he's been solid for Toronto. So, you add Max Kepler. He hasn't been great yet. So the Phillies team does not seem much better to me. Meanwhile, the results haven't been what we wanted yet, but you still can't underestimate that, like, the Mets added Juan Soto. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so exactly. We'll see how it goes. I mean, listen, we know the Phillies rotation's good, but the Mets rotation's been good this year so far. I mean, so it's going to be a very interesting series. But I did want to go over something with you, and it relates to the Phillies and it relates to the Mets. And it's something that the Phillies decide to do with their lineup that I wonder if the Mets should consider. So, as we've talked about before, we've seen Kyle Schwarber do really nice at that leadoff spot. We're like, listen, he's great in that leadoff spot. And we talk about, like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it kind of thing. However, another one of their key guys, Bryson Stott, had been struggling. So what the Phillies did was they moved Stott to the leadoff spot and moved Schwarber down to cleanup. And Stott is now performing much better. And that made me think, the Mets' current cleanup hitter, and he's batting cleanup again today, Brandon Nimmo, is someone who, for his career, his best spot was the leadoff spot. It has not been the cleanup spot. Now, I know Lindor has been exceptional in the leadoff spot. We don't want to move him from there. But I just think that with how bad Nimmo has been, can we consider Nimmo 1, Lindor 2, Soto 3, Alonso 4? Is that possible? I mean, can we do it? Because
it's not impossible, in my opinion. No,
because when I'm looking at it, I just don't understand what we're doing with Nimmo. Because it's like, okay, I know we want Lindor to do really well in the leadoff spot, and he's been exceptional in the first inning, especially. I mean, he is his numbers are insane leading off games. He did it yesterday with the leadoff home run, but Nimmo in the cleanup spot. I mean, this is where the old school kind of comes into. But I have the numbers to show it. Brandon Nimmo has had the most opportunities with runners in scoring position this season for the Mets, and he is one of the worst. He is 5 for 35. It's not what he's supposed to do. And I feel like in order to get Nimmo going, we got to get him back to what he used to be, back to being a leadoff man, getting on base, because it's like we talk about wanting to get the most out of your players, putting your players in positions to succeed. Lindor's in a position to succeed, but Brandon Nimmo is not, because he does not know what he's doing. He's not hitting the ball the way he used to. Sometimes he's pulling too much. Sometimes he's hitting, like I said, lazy fly balls to left field. Like his at bats, they just kind of seem all over the place. So I just feel like in order just to maybe get him going, just for a little bit at least, maybe get Nimmo to the leadoff spot, let him settle down, get some good confidence going, and just see what happens. I mean, moving Lindor down 1 spot to 2, I mean, could it be that drastic? I mean, will it be that much of a difference?
Listen, I don't think this is. I don't think that this would be as major with Lindor, because yes, the big leadoff initiative that they took last year when he was leading off, he was able to be a little bit more the player that he was. But I feel like he also could do that now that he has Juan Soto behind him. So you could put Nimmo in the leadoff spot if you want to do that.
Right, because there would be no excuse for Lindor being pitched differently. If anything, if Nimmo is actually back to getting on base, being a productive player, maybe Lindor's at-bats get better, because now he has a man on, and there's double the pressure on the pitcher because you have a runner on base and you have Soto batting after him. Yeah. Maybe Lindor could do even better. So, I mean, that's what it comes down to me. It's like, because what's happening is if you have, as much as Soto struggled, the on-base percentage is still very high. So if Nimmo gets back to being high OBP, Soto gets on, Lindor's on, and Alonso's been insane with runners on base. So now you got Alonso and more RB opportunities. He's been the best with the runners in scoring position on this team. I just feel like everything kind of flows better. Like now Alonso has even more opportunities to drive in runs, because now Alonso has to get pitched differently because there's Nimmo behind him struggling so much. Now, if Vientos was healthy and performing well, this would help out, because we're going to get back into the conversation of well, then who does bat after Pete? Because Nimmo's been brutal. Yeah. Both DHs have been absolutely terrible. Vientos is right now hurt and was starting to wake up a little bit, but still not where he's supposed to be. So right now, you still are not able to kind of make the most out of Alonso's at-bats because you don't have a great hitter to put behind him. And Alonso, to his credit, he continues to work with what they're giving him. He still has more walks than strikeouts. So I really love that Pete has not changed their approach despite the hitter behind him constantly changing. I mean, it's like someone batting different every game cleanup. So I just think that it's very fascinating to me. I mean, when they faced the lefty on Saturday, they had Nimmo bat 6th. That didn't do much for him either. So I'm just very curious to see how they could get the most out of this offense.
I'm trying so hard not to jump the gun on it. I'm trying so hard not to just get so aggressive with it just because of the sake of one hitter struggling. But obviously the offense as a whole has not been productive. Now, the thing with Nimmo, I'm not making the sweeping declaration that the guy's career is completely going down the toilet and he's just going to completely just, fall off the face of the earth because he got paid and now he's going to dip like the New York Rangers do. What I'm saying is, I think at this point, I don't like him in the 4 spot. I think I've established this by now. because I just don't like him being considered any type of protection in that way. And I think Nimmo has struggled with runners in scoring position this year. And I think it's more of just the fact that it's the emphasis of how many opportunities that he is getting. And maybe it's possible that he's just not 100%. And I don't know if that is the case, but I do know that Brandon Nimmo typically throughout his entire career is one of the best situational hitters on this team. So at some point, I feel like it will even out, but also, again, I'd like to see Brandon Nimmo be that type of hitter that he did used to be, where he was very balanced in that way. Because when he started hitting for power in somewhat, he was also giving you, he was also still giving you a good amount of on-base percentage. He was getting on base twice a game, that typical type of thing. Whether it was from the leadoff spot or not, listen, I'm fine with them making a change if they want to make a change, but I'm not going to completely panic at the fact that, okay, well, Brandon Nimmo, it's because he's in the cleanup spot is why he's not producing the way that he is, because I've seen him do well in these situations. I don't want to see him chase power the way that he is right now, as to where he's just blindly swinging at everything that he sees. What I want to see more from him is just the competitive ABs, which I think you can get from any point of the lineup, whether he's batting sixth or batting first or batting fourth. We know what Brandon Nimmo is capable of. The problem is that right now, he's just not looking like himself, and they don't really know where to place him, especially where they're establishing the top three of this lineup as Lindor, Soto, and Alonso, and they've done that since the beginning of opening day. I'm fine with putting Nimmo in the leadoff spot if you want to do that again, but at some point, we're going to have to see what we saw from Brandon Nimmo, and that being one of the best situational hitters on this team, as he has been for a long time. He was able to get a good hit yesterday or whatever situationally against, Maton.
Yeah.
But, it was better, more competitive.
I just pulled up just because I was thinking about it. Brandon Nimmo from last year. So last year with Nimmo, he did have a point in time. Remember, it was close to the All-Star game. We were advocating Nimmo should be on the All-Star team, not Alonso, especially because Nimmo was doing really, really well with runners on base. So I pulled up last year. Even in the games he batted cleanup, it was 7 games. He had an OPS of 454. His best position was actually batting second, 776. Then batting first, he was 761. And then batting third, 699. So 1-2 has been the best for Nimmo. Even last year when he was driving in runs early in the season, first half, second half, he was just bad altogether. But he just has not been good historically in that spot. So, it's tough when you extend Nimmo to a certain amount of deal, because the thought was that Nimmo was supposed to be a leadoff hitter. Like when they gave him the contract extension, like he was a leadoff hitter, he was supposed to be a leadoff hitter. Then Lindor started struggling, they move him to leadoff, and all of a sudden he's doing amazing. Like, oh my gosh, we can't take Lindor out of the leadoff spot. So now Nimmo's just kind of there. Like and also Nimmo's paid to be a center fielder. He's now a left fielder, and it's just like he's kind of I feel he's getting lost in the shuffle a little bit. Like they don't really know how to get him to fit with this current iteration of the group. And then someone mentioned the idea of Nimmo batting ninth. In theory, I don't hate it, but the bottom half of the order at this current moment is just so bad that I don't think that's going to really work. I don't think moving Taylor
added
up
to the list
or
of
Beatty,
9-hole hitters.
Yeah, moving Taylor up, moving Beatty up. I don't think that's really going to help us in total offensively. So it just has been very weird to see how this has gone, because if you want to move Nimmo second, okay. I mean, you could, but I think 1 is probably the best spot for him. Lindor 2, and then Soto 3, Alonso 4. That's what I would try, but I mean, we'll see. And listen, if McNeil comes in and all of a sudden it's red hot, you could put him 5, maybe. If Alvarez comes in red hot, sure. But like, no matter where Nimmo's moved, they still need somebody else to step up, because we've talked the top 3 it's been very top heavy. It's been, like we said, the combination of Lindor, Soto, Alonso. But if you move Leo, if he's still not hitting, you still need somebody else to step up to bat behind P. Alonso, whether that is Vientos, Alvarez, McNeil, one of the DHs, Nimmo, like somebody else has got to do it. So that's kind of what I'm looking at.
Yeah. Gabriel saying in the chat, wouldn't move Lindor off leadoff, an MVP caliber player there. I'd move Nimmo down where he can go back to seeing more pitches and getting on base. Vientos cleanup in a perfect world, DH fifth. And he says, however, the Mets group of DHs do stink. I mean, that is true. It's a weak platoon. We said it before the season even started. The thing with Nimmo is I know that eventually it's going to come together because, like, again, underlyingly, he looks fine. But again, I think that maybe the position in the lineup is something that they do factor into. And, you know, this is he's at his lowest strikeout rate of his career. He's at his lowest walk rate of his career this year. He's hitting the ball harder than he ever has. It's there. It's just, I think at this point he's just missing. And maybe at some point the benefactor to that is going to have to be moving him to somewhere in this lineup that he does feel comfortable with. The problem that I have with this, and the problem that I have with the Mets constantly, is that they have a new lineup every single day. So even though they have guys in certain positions, nobody can actually get a rhythm. It's another reason why there is a lot of inconsistency. Usually a lot of these teams that are contending, they don't have a different lineup every single day. Whether it is platoons or not, I'm seeing a lot of this switch around. So if they want Nimmo to be the cleanup hitter, like whatever, but like they put him at 5, they put him at 6. I mean, I just put him somewhere. Put him somewhere and stick with it, please. Because at some point, they're going to have to find some consistency with this offense. It's not going to be by protecting guys from getting certain amount of pitches and keeping guys from protecting from certain amount of pitches every single day. Because it seems like these guys need to change their approach every single day because they have a new lineup every single game. So again, I just feel like there needs to be a little bit more of an established presence there. And this is another reason as to why I don't like platoons. But again, that's another story. I feel like the Nimmo conversation will get, like, I feel like I'm trying so hard to be patient with it because I'm seeing good signs from him, but also I'm seeing really bad signs from him. I'm trying to be so patient because I know what Brandon Nimmo is capable of as compared to some of the other hitters in these lineups that I know this is what you're going to get and this is what they're going to present to you every single night. But I think that right now, it's so hard to just completely point out pieces of this lineup that aren't working when the offense is just inconsistent as it is as a whole. Like, that's basically the problem that I have with this is like, oh, well, the problem is there's so many problems with this offense. I don't know what just fell on my floor, but we're going to go with it. Anyways, I do want to get into what happened during this series because we did play 4 games. And when we do play a 4-game series, it always seems like we haven't been on a lifetime ago. A lot has happened. But again, here's the thing. We can get a little bit more into the Nimmo conversation, but I do want to recap these games a little bit because, again, I understand that there is some things to complain about that are consistent, but I think getting a 4-game sweep should come to light because it does not happen often. Anyways, as for running down this entire series, we'll go right back to Game 1 where Griffin Canning made his 5th start of the year and would shove through 6 innings of 1-run ball with 8 strikeouts on 102 pitches. The Mets would do all of their scoring in the 2nd inning as Mark Vientos would get them started with his first home run of the year, scraping the right field foul pole. Brett Beatty would add on another run with a bloop RBI single to make it 2-0, and Francisco Lindor would make it 3-0 on an RBI single and also manufacture another run, waving home Tyrone Taylor while a run down between first and second would end the inning, but it would make it 4-0 Mets beforehand. The Mets bullpen would do their thing from there. Reed Garrett would toss a scoreless 7th with a strikeout. AJ Minter would put up a scoreless 8th on 9 pitches. And Edwin Diaz would strike out 2, working around a leadoff walk to notch his 4th save of the year and secure the series opener 4-1. Game 2, David Peterson would get the start and strike out 9 batters across 5 innings and a third, walking no one on 99 pitches after going down 2-0 and giving away the lead again in the 6th. Max Krennic would come on in relief to finish the inning to keep it at a 1-run game. The Mets offense would be pretty silent against Miles Mikolas until the 5th. After a leadoff double by Brett Beatty, Tyrone Taylor would drive him in to get the Mets on the board with an RBI triple. Juan Soto would tie the game at 2 with an RBI single. After Peterson's exit, the Mets would find themselves down 3-2 in the 6th, and the Bats would pick him up immediately with a solo home run by Mark Vientos, his 2nd of the year and of the series, to tie it up once again. Vientos would lead off the 8th with a single and be pinch ran by Luis Angel Acuna. Acuna would steal second base but get tagged out trying to advance to third. That would put Brandon Nimmo on first. Former Met Phil Maton's pickoff attempt would go past first baseman Wilson Contreras, and Nimmo would end up going to scoring position for Luis Torrens to give the Mets the lead once again with an RBI double to make it 4-3 in the 8th. Following another fantastic follow-up inning by Max Krennic in the 7th, a 1-2-3 8th by Ryan Stanek. Huskar Brazaban would come on in the 9th, and give away the lead immediately on a foul pole scraping home run by Brandon Donovan to tie the game at 4. But Brazaban would strike out the next 3 batters to send the game to the bottom of the 9th, still tied, and the Mets shortstop Francisco Lindor would end this back-and-forth contest with one swing blasting a walk-off home run to the Coca-Cola corner, his 2nd of the season, and his first walk-off home run of his Mets career to lift the Mets to a 5-4 victory in Game 2. Game 3, Kodai Senga would make his 4th start of the year on an extra day of rest, and he was sharp all day after inducing a ground ball double play in the 6th. Senga would hit Nolan Arenado with the pitch, and that would be the last that he'd throw, as Reed Garrett would finish off the 6th to close the book on Senga. 5 2/3 innings pitched, 3 hits, 0 earned runs, 2 walks, 4 strikeouts on 89 pitches. The Mets offense would get going in the 3rd after a leadoff double by Luis Angel Acuna. Juan Soto would drive him in on an RBI single to make it 1-0. Pete Alonso would add to the lead with an RBI double to make it 2-0. And the big guy would add on once again in the 8th, blasting his 6th home run of the year to give the Mets a 3-0 lead. New York would get hits from Starling Marte, Brandon Nimmo, and newly called up Jose Azocar. And despite going 1 for 7 with runners in scoring position, the Mets bullpen would hold it once again. Reed Garrett would come out for the 7th and toss a scoreless inning on 9 pitches. A.J. Minter would struggle to throw strikes. He would walk 3 batters, but would induce 2 crucial ground balls to keep St. Louis off the board. And Edwin Diaz would get the 9th and strike out 2 as a part of a 1-2-3 inning to notch the save, as the Mets would shut out the Cardinals in Game 3, 3-0. And in Game 4, the series finale, Clay Holmes would make the start and finally stretch to 6 innings, surrendering just 1 earned run, striking out 6 on 91 pitches. Francisco Lindor would lead off the first inning with his 3rd home run of the season and 2nd of the series to give the Mets an early 1-0 lead. Juan Soto would add to the lead in the 3rd with a sacrifice fly to score Tyrone Taylor to make it 2-0 Mets. Pete Alonso would play his 24th run of the year on an RBI single to make it 3-0 Mets in the 5th. But the shorthanded Mets bullpen would struggle a bit as Danny Young would come in for the 7th, getting only 2 outs, exiting with 2 runners on. And Jose Butto would throw 1 pitch to Thomas Sagazi, and he would tie the game at 3 with a 2-run double before Butto would get the last out to keep the game tied at 3, but the Mets would respond in the bottom of the inning. Francisco Lindor would get on with a 1-out single. Juan Soto would walk, 2 out, 2 on, and the struggling Brandon Nimmo, as we just said, would finally break through and give the Mets a 4-3 lead on an RBI single off of former Met Phil Maton. The Mets would add on to their lead in the 8th following a leadoff infield double by Luis Angel Acuna. that deflected off the shortstop, Tyrone Taylor would get an unorthodox double of his own to drive in Acuna to make it a 5-3 game. 2 out, 2 on. Juan Soto would break the game open with a 2-run double to left center to stretch the lead to 7-3. After a bounce back inning in the 8th by Jose Butto, Ryan Stanek would get the 9th and surrender an earned run for the first time this season, but he would be able to finish it off to secure a game 4 win, 7-4. The Mets are now 15-7, sitting pretty for the time being, with a 2-game lead on the Phillies for first place in the National League East Division, following their first sweep of the St. Louis Cardinals since April of 1986. Interesting year, huh? Interesting year, right? So for you narrative pushers, there's some fuel for you. But as for this series, like I said, it seems like a lifetime the last time we talked, because 4 games go by, a lot goes on, a lot of stories throughout this entire series. We know we just talked about Nimmo and him kind of struggling in his certain position. But I'd say that out of all the series that they have played so far this season, I know it's early, but that was one of the most complete series that they played, not just because of the overall results of them winning every single game in a 4-game set, but also it was just a lot more structurally sound from all aspects of the ball. And I think, Frank, you can definitely agree, especially after that series they had in Minnesota.
Yes, no, I mean, that definitely was big. And I feel like one of the key things for me here is that, as we know, I mean, the Mets had this 4-game series, and then you go right into the Phillies series. We talked about the no off days. So we talked about how are you going to piece together the way the pitching staff has gone considering the lack of volume. And what I like is that Carlos Mendoza was much more aggressive this series. I mean, you showed the pitch counts here. Griffin Canning went over 100 pitches, and he finally earned it by not falling apart, 5th inning, 6th inning. So that was really nice to see from Canning. He pushed David Peterson more. Senga, he went with 89 pitches. Clay Holmes, just about everybody was 90 pitches and above. But the first 2 guys, one over 100, the other almost at 100. So getting more length out of your starting pitchers, less of a workload on the bullpen. So that was a big key, not overworking your guys. And they've been very conscientious of it, because you saw Ryan Stanek close yesterday, and even Diaz didn't get to close all of these games. So the Mets have really tried to not overwork anybody too much specifically. However, we've seen how good Stanek has been. We've seen how good Garrett has been. Like you said, Minter struggled a little bit. Kranick's been great. Brosbaugh, for the most part, has been good. However, there are times like yesterday where you get to the point where your guys are Danny Young and Jose Butto, and it just becomes more difficult when those are the only guys you have available and you're saving Stanek for the 9th inning, because they got lucky that the Mets were able to get a lot of those other extra runs late because they had a lead, and then, like you said, Danny Young comes in, he puts guys on base, Butto comes in, first pitch, drives them in. So that was very frustrating to see after you saw Clay Holmes get a very nice start out of him, and you saw the offense doing something for you. That definitely was frustrating to see that happen. And I talked about it last episode, but Jose Butto, what he gave up the big hit on was his slider. I mean, he left the slider right over the plate. And like I said, I just don't agree with the changes that he's made. I do not think it's making him a better pitcher. I felt he was much better, using his other stuff to kind of get ahead, use that wipeout sinker. I just don't think that, your slider was not your best pitch. And to make that your primary, I just didn't think that was the best thing to do. And if your changeup is your best weapon, why would you use it less? So I just didn't think that was a good approach. And he was much more sharper in the next inning, but he's just become a very difficult pitcher to know what to do with, because it's hard to bring him on base if he's going to be hanging sliders over the plate. And also his struggles with keeping guys from not walking batters. So how do you put Butto in with men on, and if he's going to end up walking hitters? And, to your point that you've made before, but it's like, if Danny Young could just do his job, it makes Jose Butto's job a lot easier. But when you are a reliever, nothing is perfect. I mean, you're going to be put in all kinds of different scenarios, especially when the other guys are down and not available. So that was a bit of a scary situation. They were able to get out of it, still able to get the win, but that was something I just found very interesting, that like those guys really almost blew it for them. So you can't have Garrett and Kranick and these guys, strand the runners for you every time. So you got to be able to kind of clean up your own mess, so to speak. But one of the guys I wanted to go over with you, I was just curious to get your take on it. I'm looking at Griffin Canning, and he's just been a very fascinating story this season for the Mets. He's been a pleasant surprise, but when you look at some of his underlying numbers, some of his advanced numbers, like I find like there is some stuff that is quite concerning. He's lucky that he's getting the ball on the ground a lot, but he is giving us some hard contact, and I felt like we talked about it in his start in Sacramento, where, I mean, there were some ropes that were hit that were going right to the outfielders, some really hard line drives. So, like, how do you feel about Canning so far? Do you feel like the adjustments are good? Is he about to fall apart second half of the season? Like, I mean, because I'm not quite sure how I feel about him. Like, what is your take on what you've seen from him?
He needs to locate. That's it. That's all I need. That's all you need from him. He needs to locate. He needs to find the right part of the zone, and he's able to do that. He's a pronated type of pitcher. The stuff is not flashy whatsoever, but I think here's the thing. If he's going to stuff the strike zone, again, he's got to locate. That's pretty much the thing, because he has a vulnerable fastball. We know that, and that was the type of adjustment that he made. I am not really panicking about him, only because I know that even if he does not end up being effective, that he is replaceable in that rotation. And if he does have those struggles and they still like him, which it seems like they still do, they'll probably end up, maybe moving him over to the bullpen when this rotation gets a little bit healthier. I'm not really as panicked at this current moment, because, again, if you were to look at some of the hard contact, or you were to look at that, obviously the strikeout numbers being up, the way that he's still been able to get chases, he's still been able to get a decent amount of swings and misses, expand the zone fairly well, prioritizing the slider. I mean, if you want to project the best way you can, because it is a small sample, I mean, expected ERA at 3.87. So even with that hard contact, still administrating it on the ground, I'm not really panicking, really. I'm much rather him just throw strikes than work around the strike zone and just nibble around the strike zone, because I've seen that way too many times with this team and their pitching. But I am not relying on Griffin Canning to hold things up, so it's not really as much of a concern to me as to just exist for now. That's all I need. Just exist. That's all I need. And if we do need you a little bit more important down the stretch, we will figure that out. Because it's so hard for me to establish a pitching staff when all they do is get injured. So it's basically just filling in innings and filling in existence. That's literally at the current moment that I'm at in April. But right now it seems to be fine for the most part. If he's getting to points where he can't go deeper into games, like if there's going to be knockouts, like kind of what we were seeing with Scherzer and Verlander, if there's going to be knockouts in the third inning and the fourth inning, then we're going to have to address a problem. But right now, I'm not here to say that I'm relying on Griffin Canning to give me 6 innings, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I mean, and that's going to be very interesting. I mean, if Montas come back, and how they do, like a lot of that, we'll kind of see what everyone's role turns out to be by the time it's all said and done. So, I mean, that is something that is going to be interesting to monitor as the year goes along. But then we look at the offense. I mean, one of the other things that I noticed was pretty interesting is that we talked about beginning the season, Mets going to do this platoon with Acuna and Beatty, and it was going to be like, in a traditional platoon, one guy's right-handed, one guy's left-handed. The guy who bats right-handed faces the lefties, but Acuna, he's actually got some pretty big reverse splits right about now. He's hitting 306 against righties compared to 222 against lefties. So, this whole Mark
I don't think
Vientos
he's
slight
facing that
injury.
many.
Yeah, he hasn't seen as many lefties, and
Has
that's
he
kind of
seen
been the case with everybody. Lindor finally got his first hit against a lefty yesterday. He's also hitting over 300 against righties. So, that's just kind of the way baseball has become. It's just more and more like less left-handed pitchers you're seeing. But the Phillies, we know they've got big lefty in their bullpen, so that's going to be interesting to
Yes.
follow. And some other teams that have a lot of lefties in their pens, but the Mets haven't really matched up against them yet. But I just wonder, like, kind of we're gonna get to it later on, like patching up center field, but the Vientos thing has kind of made everything a little tricky as far as like who gets the playing time between Beatty and Acuna. So lately they've both been able to play, but as it continues to go along, I mean, I feel like the gap between Beatty and Acuna is separating himself more and more from Beatty, and that, like, when the time comes and Jeff McNeil's ready to go, I
Beatty
feel
has
like
Beatty has a good average in the last 4 games. What are you talking about?
Yeah, and Acuna has a good average the last 10 games. So, I mean, I'll take more. And we look at the totality of
For the
what
whole
they're doing.
season.
Look at what they're doing. Acuna is almost 100 higher on the batting average. He's 200 higher in the OPS. So he's got a
120 weighted
lot
runs
more.
created plus, mainly
Exactly.
because of his base running, obviously.
Yes, and that's the other thing too that I like about Acuna is that, like, if both guys are hitting the ball on the ground, it's like what's interesting. Speed is like really a tiebreaker in a lot of ways, because even if they were very similar, both guys hit the ball on the ground weak. There's a better chance, probability-wise, that Acuna is going to reach first base, and with his speed, there's a better chance he's going to end up on second base. So it's like we said, we're like, even if both guys were hitting, Acuna is still the better option. He's better defensively, he plays more positions, and he's been making things happen on the bases with his speed. He's been causing some panic in pitchers. They're throwing the ball away. He's ending up on second, and then the combination, it was really noticeable in this Cardinals series with him and Taylor on the bases, just creating absolute havoc. I mean, it was awesome to see, like, generating some other ways to get runs. Acuna's laying down some bunts. I mean, he is making things happen on the field, and I really like to see that, because with Siri down, I wanted someone else to kind of fill that role of just being a guy that uses their speed that just to make chaos happen on the bases for the other team and in the field. And he's done a really good job of that. So I've liked what I've seen. He's starting to hit the ball a little harder. And like we said, he's getting that consistent playing time now. So it just goes to show you, as we know with the young players, the more they get to play, I mean, you get to kind of get a better feel of what they are, because we talk about he'd have a game, he gets a couple hits, and then he's on the bench. So, I mean, now getting to see him play full time, I've liked what I've seen, and he's ended up being one of the Mets' best contributors. And you're looking at that OPS plus, he's number 3 on the team, right behind Alonso and Soto, and right ahead of Lindor. So still a small sample size, but he's really starting to get it going. And I just am very curious to see what his role is once the decision does come, because McNeil starts, he goes back to inconsistent playing time, and we're not going to see him be as effective.
Well, here's the thing. I think that the thought process right now with the Mets is basically what we are seeing with Luisangel Acuna. It's so bad to just say that, not bad, excuse me. It's so easy. That's what I'm trying to say. It's so easy to say that Luisangel Acuna is an overall better contributor to this team than Brett Beatty. I think it's very, very easy to say that. The problem that I have here is, you can bang the drum as much as you want for Luisangel Acuna. I still think that at this moment, he's still on borrowed time. And that's the problem with him. It's not has anything to do with Jeff McNeil. It's the fact that they still see, and we're still seeing, specifically, the decision-making, the mental mistakes constantly that are keeping them from giving them the keys. And the main thing that I really do wonder is, how do they utilize him when Jeff McNeil eventually does come back? Because when it comes to Beatty, I know that at this current moment, he can't just at this current moment, he can't be the highest contributor known to man, because he's going to be in that bottom part of the lineup. But the problem that I have with this is, we're never going to get an actual look of what Acuna is because of what is here. because of the inventory of second baseman, because of the inventory of whether it's center field, whether it's this or that, he's going to continue to be on borrowed time. And the problem that I have with that is I don't know, just because of based off of what we have heard from him being bored or being this or being that, the overall work ethic of Luis Angel Acuna is very, very questioning to me as to if he does get this playing time, what is he going to do with it? And if he doesn't get this playing time, is he even going to care? Is he even going to do that? And I feel like they're very hesitant to give him the keys at this current moment because, yes, Brett Beatty's been crap. I'm not a fan of Brett Beatty. I've said that I don't believe that Brett Beatty is a good player. I still don't. But at some point, I feel like there is going to also have to be a question answered with Acuna because I know what the fate is at this point of Brett Beatty. You're not fooling me with a 4-game series of getting a few hits and doing that. You're going to have to show me a little bit more than that before I completely declare him the starting second baseman of this team. You have Jeff McNeil here. You have no choice of that way. I just think at this point, they're still very, very hesitant to give him the keys because of some of the things that have also costed this team these games and cost these types of things. These types of things that they're very, very hesitant. I understand them wanting to be not wanting to be hesitant, but again, we know that if he was to get the playing time, the only way for him to learn is for him to play. And I don't think he's going to get that opportunity to play. I just don't. I really don't.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see kind of how it unfolds. And listen, with the way it's going, we'll get to it later on, but there might be another position for him to get some time at because, it's like if your offense is struggling and you have a guy, it's going to be interesting to put, like I said, at this point, one of your best hitters, now move him to the bench when you have some other guys struggling and he has other tools that he provides. I mean, they might have to consider something else. So
I definitely agree.
We'll see. But like you said, I mean, once McNeil gets here, he's going to play. So it's a matter of Acuna. Like he still has to make the most of it though when he does get to play. It's like he's got to change that mentality that like, oh well, they're not going to play me anyway. Like you have to make a way. So
I think that there's a hesitance. That's just how I feel like it. You know what I mean? Yeah. I feel at some point there is going to be a feel of, maybe disbelief with him. Like I feel like at some point, whether it is when McNeil comes back, whether it is Ronnie Mauricio coming into the equation, whether it's something like that, I just don't see a possibility where he is the ideal role that we expect him to be. So at some point, they're going to have to answer some kind of question with him because I feel like we already have answered the question with what Beatty is capable of. With Acuna, where you have all these certain sites of tools, how are you going to utilize them? I still don't think they know that. I still don't think they know how they're going to utilize a guy like Luis Angel Acuna. Could it be the fact that Jeff McNeil is here? Sure. Could it be the fact that maybe they just don't think he is up to the task and there's still these mental mistakes that he's making on the field? Sure. But I feel like there is some other ways that maybe they can fit him in here if you didn't have some other guys here, or it was just the entire mentality or whatever Francisco Lindor was talking about, before the season started of him, maybe possibly playing bored. I just don't think that there's a consistent buy-in with him. And I feel like there's the main reason as to why they're so hesitant to put him out there. I have no idea what is going on in the chat right now. I've kind of gone into the discussion. If you want a recap of what's going on, I have no idea what has been going on. I haven't really been paying attention these past half hour. But I mean, some really good discussions in here that I am seeing. D saying, I couldn't disagree more. I think Acuna plays his way on. And I do think that the only way for him to learn is to play. But again, I feel like he's just kind of sandwiched in these situations as to where, there's only going to be so many times where he's going to get that opportunity to completely run with it because of what they're kind of locked in right now with a guy like Jeff McNeil or a guy like this or a guy like that. I know that center field has been talked about as a possibility for somebody like Acuna. I'd be fine with it. We will talk a little bit about center field in a second. But the problem that I have here is that you're just not giving yourself an opportunity. I feel like they're being a little bit too hesitant on these situations and on these decisions. Maybe McNeil does push that. Maybe he does, but I don't know how that does get considered. And I think at some point, maybe there is a decision made. We know that Jose Azocar is up here. Maybe he's sent down. Maybe he's not. And they try to give Luis Angel Acuna some time in center field. I'm not sure. Obviously, the bat has contributed, and I do want to see it consistently. But, I feel like there is some particular times, and we've seen already, where, he's getting into his own way. And that's the problem as to why I feel like they're not confident to give it to him. Not to mention, it just, for some reason, they still are just very, very high on Brett Baty existing for this team. So the only problem that I have with this is you're not going to have all winners here. And it may suck that you're not going to have all winners here in this situation. And I just feel like he's just kind of on this borrowed time right now, or they at least look at him as this type of borrowed time. And I don't know how many chances he's going to get to prove to say, yeah, I should be an everyday player, because there's been some flashes, and then there's been some that are not flashes that show that maybe this guy should just be on the bench. And Jeff McNeil coming back, what is it, next week maybe?
Maybe this week.
That doesn't help that. Doesn't help it.
Yeah, because I know they said on the broadcast yesterday that they're having McNeil and Alvarez both be evaluated today and kind of see where to go from there. And both of them are going to try to talk their way onto the team. McNeil is using the torpedo bat. He's hitting home runs in his rehab games, so he's going to be looking to pull. So that's going to be interesting to see what happens. But I think those guys will be here sooner rather than later. So, the decisions are coming up for this team relatively soon, like by this week. We'll have a better idea of who's going where and who's playing when. So all that is just going to be interesting to see. But you know what? He still has to make the most of it. He still has to make the decision tough for them. So he can't just be like, oh, well, they're coming up now. Now it's time for me to go back to chill mode. Like, he has to kind of go with it. And, the more we get to see him play, the more we get to see if he adjusts, because it's like, there's making mental mistakes in the field and things like that. But is he going to continue to make them? Like, if I continue to see him run to first base when a guy's running to second base, or I continue to see him not knowing where the ball is when he's diving head first and second base on a stolen base, then I get concerned. But if he's able to learn from it, and as you see with more playing time, he cuts down on the mental mistakes, that would be very encouraging. Could it be part of the process of being a young player? It's possible, because most of the guys on here are veterans. Like, they are guys that are near their 30s, so they've had a lot more experience than he has. So it kind of stands out when he makes these mistakes, because you're not going to see like Nimmo and these guys doing those kind of plays. So it might just be part of the process, and we'll find out though. If he continues to mess up though, we'd be like, well, he's just not getting it. So they're still, I think they're still learning like who he is as far as what he could bring the more he gets to play.
We'll see. Again, I just don't know what the leeway is, and it's more of just me accepting reality and not just being like, oh, well, I want this and I want that. It's just the fact that, there's someone here, like you said, in the rehab assignment using a torpedo bat and looking like Barry Bonds out there. And, that's going to happen. It's basically just a what you're going to see. And I just don't know what the leeway is going to be for him. especially in that infield. Maybe it is in the outfield, but we haven't seen that at the major league level. So we'll see what their hesitance is on this one. Listen, Ken, what? Sorry, what? Is any of this true? Except maybe McNeil. I'm not a fan of McNeil.
Yeah, no, he's way off there. Yeah, he might have gotten McGill and Peterson mixed up, but it's okay. We move on.
Peterson, I have a history with. McNeil, I'm not a fan of. I've said I haven't. Beatty, I don't know who the hell you've been listening to that I like Beatty. But again, anyways, I think that, with this full-on rundown of how this is constructed, McNeil is not really someone who I think blocks it completely. But I think that with the fact of him getting the consistent playing time or playing a consistent position, whether they don't want to, they want to, put him in these certain positions. They want to make him a utility guy with Acuna. I feel like they're not making a decision yet. And I feel like they eventually will, but we just don't know how they want to utilize Luis Angel Acuna. And I feel like that's all really eventually going to be answered in some way. Either way, hard to see Azócar getting any more starts. Again, we'll talk a little bit about the center field situation after one very important situation we got to talk about, and that is obviously the health of these players. So, Frank, I will turn it over to you because we did get some of these updates for some of our players and some key pieces as well with rehab. So I will bring it over to you for the injury report. It is all yours.
Alrighty, so we are starting it off with Francisco Alvarez. Mets catcher is medically cleared to be activated after catching 9 innings on back-to-back nights for Double-A Binghamton earlier this week. After starting at DH on Sunday afternoon, Mets manager Carlos Mendoza confirmed that Alvarez will continue his rehab assignment this week and will not be activated during this homestand. The 23-year-old has been sidelined since mid-March after undergoing surgery to repair a fractured hamate bone in his left hand. Frankie Montas, Mets starting pitcher, has been playing catch from 90 feet over the past few days and hopes to start throwing bullpen sessions in about 2 to 3 weeks. Although there's no official timeline for the right-hander's return to the Mets rotation, he is currently on pace for late May or early June. The 32-year-old is currently on the 15-day injured list due to a right lat strain he suffered in the first week of camp. Jeff McNeil, Mets second baseman, played center field for the first time in his career for Low-A Port St. Lucie earlier this week. The 33-year-old former batting champion resumed his rehab assignment for Double-A Binghamton and played 9 innings at second base on Saturday night. It is still unclear when exactly McNeil will be activated off the injured list, as Mets manager stated that McNeil will continue his rehab assignment this week. McNeil has been sidelined since the middle of March due to a minor oblique injury he suffered in camp. Paul Blackburn, Mets right-handed pitcher, began a rehab assignment for High-A Brooklyn on Saturday and tossed 2 innings. He gave up 2 hits, 1 run, 2 walks, 1 strikeout on 38 pitches. Mets manager stated that Blackburn's role on the Mets when returned is still unclear, but they are planning to stretch him out to 75 pitches before then. The 31-year-old right-hander was placed on the 15-day injured list right before opening day due to right knee inflammation. Mark Vientos, Mets third baseman, left Saturday's afternoon game in the 5th inning due to groin discomfort after a nice leaping catch that he made. The 25-year-old power bat believes the injury was just cramping due to dehydration. While feeling better the following morning, Vientos did not play the final game of the series on Sunday and is also not in the lineup tonight against the Phillies. Mendoza says they have a low level of concern at the moment, and Vientos is currently considered day-to-day.
All right,
so
well,
these guys, I mean, especially like Blackburn, it's like, man, it just feels like it's been a while, and he's just, I don't know.
What are those stats concerning? Those are
No, it's not even
concerning.
the stats. It's not even the stats because I don't expect good stats with him. But it's like it's 38 pitches. He still has to build up to 75. Like he was
Yeah,
supposed
it'll
to be
probably be like
ready,
two
and that's
more.
just like knee inflammation. Like it's always like these weird things. It's like spinal leakage. It's knee inflammation.
Yeah.
It's just like these. I don't know. I just don't think he's in a good spot as far as can like his. He's just always got something going on. It's really been a disappointment.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's basically the life of a pitcher, I guess. I don't know, going into your 30s. Doug saying earlier said, how long will the Mets wait until they put Vientos on the DL?
No, I don't think he's gonna
After
miss
this
9
ninth straight
games.
game, I don't think he's
No.
going to be on the IL at all. He's probably just going to miss tonight. It all is going to be all because of depending on how he feels.
Yeah,
I'm sure he's
one
going to
of the
be
things,
available to
too,
pinch hit.
Yeah, and that's a
do.
big thing, especially against the Phillies because they have 3 left-handers in the bullpen. So they bring in Banks to face Beatty, or they bring in Strom to face Beatty. That'd be a good time to go to Vientos. So we'll see. I mean, I am very curious. And listen, the way these DHs have performed, let's say you want to make more realistic, you bat him for Winker later in the game instead of Marte. I'm good with that because listen, that DH position has been, I know people mentioned it in the chat a little while ago, but like it's been a disaster. I mean, both of these guys have just not been any good. I mean, you look at, they basically both have the same stats and they're both awful and they're both bad with runs and scoring position. So who knows who to start at this point? I mean, so I'll get to it later on, but it's just, man, they are frustrating to watch, especially like we talk about designated hitter and the hitting of the ball is just eluding them, and it continues to. So for both guys, it's been very frustrating.
I thought that role is just for vibes. Designated
For the Mets, it's
vibes.
been ever since
Designated human.
yeah, ever since they brought it to the National League, they still haven't been
Update
able
from
to get it
Anthony
going. Oh, go ahead.
DeComo here for
Yes.
Mark Vientos saying he took ground balls earlier and he is scheduled to take BP this afternoon. He is potentially available off the bench. So again, this is a
Okay.
day-to-day
He's
thing.
progressing.
Not very serious. It's not very serious at the moment. I know that he has not played fairly well, but he did have a good start to this series in St. Louis, and I'm not really worried about how this is being factored in. But again, we'll see how they configure these certain positions for the next few days with these guys fully healthy again. No one's going to play 162 games. It's just not going to happen. Maybe there is
Alonso
one
might.
guy.
Alonso might.
Alonso could,
Yeah.
but you get those very rare instances. So again, even though I want to see some consistency in that lineup, if guys are not 100%, don't rush it in April. There's no reason to rush it in April because, again, we do not win World Series in April. Not possible. So if you need to slow some things down, slow some things down. But, I think at this point, there's some other stuff. Ken saying hope Acuna and Vientos are playing. Beatty had his 4 hits, good for 3 months. Sit him. Listen, are they? Yeah, Beatty's in the lineup today. So yeah, listen, I think
He has to be. They have no one else.
they don't
If
really
Vientos is hurt.
have a choice because Vientos is kind of down right now. But again, I think that based off of what we have seen from the overall playing time, from the center field position, which I do want to get into, I think that they're trying to find a way to put all of them in the lineup, which there is a way. I don't think it'll be the best defensive forefront, but I think that when it comes to center field, when it comes to the infield, when it comes to all of this conglomerate of guys you have on this team, you know who you can be a part-time player. We know that Tyrone Taylor has always been someone who thrives as a part-time player. He's never been somebody who, he definitely does well when he's fresh off the bench. Like there's no, reason to say that, he needs a continuous amount of playing time. And right now he is getting that continuous amount of playing time. And I think with Jose Siri down, Jose Azocar is going to be here for a few weeks. Right now, we do have a discussion in the center field position because of Jose Siri going down. We have Tyrone Taylor starting in center field and most likely will be for the next coming days. He's a decent player. Is he great? No, but the bottom part of your lineup, he did show what he can contribute during this series. And, I wasn't ready to completely toss him off a bridge, obviously, basically just because of, a few rough games, because there's a reason why he comes off the bench. You also have Luis Angel Acuna, who's been discussed as a possible center field option. I don't know what the leash is going to be typically on that, but I think that they are going to consider it, obviously, with Jose Siri being down, Tyrone Taylor being the non-guy, the guy that does not really play much, like being the type of guy who's good as a part-time player. And then you also have Jeff McNeil, who started in center field for Port St. Lucie. Did he play for Binghamton?
I think it was just Port St. Lucie.
He did something for Port St. Lucie. So they're looking at, stretching in this super utility narrative of Jeff McNeil. And I asked you guys in the poll, asking you if you're comfortable with Jeff McNeil playing center field. 44% of you are saying yes. 33% of you are saying no. 22% of you are saying I have to see it first. Frank, I'll go to you first on this before I even talk about this center field situation. More basically on McNeil, because I know that you're the McNeil guy. The center field equation. Is this something that you're like, okay, let's balance this out? Or you're just like, okay, this is no, please no. Let's not do this, and let's just stick to the typical script, because there is an argument for everything, obviously, with Jose Siri being out, Tyrone Taylor, part-time player. But the problem that I'm having with this is I feel like there's just a better way that you can patch this up that doesn't include Jeff McNeil in center field, regardless of my thoughts about him.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of moving parts here. And, it has to do a lot with, we talk about who's hot, who's not, who's due, who's not. And when it comes to Taylor, I mean, the offense we know is kind of hit or miss. Like you said, his career, he's been a fourth outfielder, and he's totally fine at that. He's a good fourth outfielder, but due to injuries and the way the team is constructed right now, he is the starting center fielder and just about the everyday center fielder. And I've been looking at Taylor. I'm looking at some of his numbers, and he's doing some things a little differently this year. He's not striking out as much. He's not whiffing as much. But also, he's not pulling the ball as much as he did previously in his career. And he was a guy that he could get a hold of one earlier on when he was in Milwaukee. He was hitting some more home runs. This year, not really pulling the ball. But what I'm more concerned about is that when I look at the defense and, as far as his outs above average, still not good. His arm is not good. So, I mean, his sprint speed is really good, though. So, I don't know if he's just not getting good jump. I know sometimes they're kind of like Nimmo. They're playing him pretty deep in center field. That might just be the way the Mets like their outfielders. They don't want to get beat over top. They want to get beat with the bloops and the dips and dunks. That could just be a philosophy that the Mets have with how they position their players. But I'm seeing balls fall in front of him. I'm not seeing him throw guys out. And overall, I'm just not seeing this exceptional defense. And some of the metrics don't show exceptional defense. So, like we talk about the difference between him and Siri is that we know Siri gives us great defense. So it's like, if you're not going to be a great hitter, you have to at least give me awesome defense, especially from the center field position with how they are constructed in the corners not being very strong defensively. That's the way that this Mets team needs to function. But if he's not really doing either one at an elite level, you do have to consider some other options. Now, the McNeil thing, that does not make sense to me. I don't get that. I mean, and D-Mac points it out right here. Who's the better center fielder, Acuna or McNeil? Is it obvious? To me, it's obvious that Luis Angel Acuna would be a better center fielder than Jeff McNeil. Acuna already has some experience in center field to begin with compared to Jeff McNeil did for his first time in the minor leagues. And just in general, Acuna's speed and him in general, it profiles way better to be a center fielder than Jeff McNeil does. Jeff McNeil has not been as good a corner outfielder lately. So why in the world would all of a sudden he become a good center fielder? I mean, there's no evidence that suggests that he would be a good center fielder. And you've mentioned it, but McNeil, he's had his own injuries, especially in the lower half, where putting him in center field is not going to help that. Putting a guy who's now 32, 33 in center field compared to a guy who's 23 is generally speaking, not a good idea despite who the player even is to begin with. So they should, if one of those guys is going to center field, it should be Acuna. Now, one of the things that I had mentioned before, and they did it a little bit in spring training, was, maybe you have Nimmo do some center field, and then if you wanted to, if Nimmo was actually going good, you could try Nimmo in center and put Jeff in left and put Acuna at second if everybody is hitting and you want to get the maximum offense. You could bring Taylor as a defensive replacement and move some guys around. That's an option. But if Nimmo's not hitting, like we said, it's the same thing with Sarah. If you're not hitting and not fielding, then you really should not be in center field. So they're in a tough spot right now with how many guys are swinging a cold bat. That's making this decision tougher. Is that like you don't know who to put out there? So right now Taylor has the most experience there. He was okay for them in the playoffs and down the stretch in center field last year when Bader couldn't get the job done. Taylor did fine. But right now he just hasn't been the same defensively in center field. So there is a lot of things they have to consider here. And, I would let Acuna get some reps out there once everyone's fully healthy just to see how it goes. If Taylor continues to not do great in either department, like if he's not hitting extremely well or not looking too great out there in center field, I would give Acuna a try and see how it goes. But right now, they're kind of stuck in this situation. Maybe down the road, Gilbert's in this mix too. We've seen him get some nice home runs in the minor leagues. He doesn't really profile as a center field. He's more of a corner. But again, if your offense is struggling, your third baseman not hitting, your second baseman not hitting, if your catchers don't hit, your DH is not hitting, you got to get offense somewhere. So if that means that Gilbert has to go in center because your corners are occupied with Nimmo and Soto, that might be what you have to do. It's not ideal, but it's something they have to consider.
I'm not saying that Gilbert can't play center field because I do think that there's some range there. I just don't think he's ready to. I think he still needs these AAA ABs, and he also just needs to get healthy still. Even though he has been activated and everything, and we can always say, oh well, let's plug him in here. I don't see him as someone who can fill in as of right now. The main thing that I'd say about this whole Jeff McNeil into center field thing, because I think a lot of people are saying that they want to keep Beatty and Acuna. That's probably just mainly because Beatty has a good batting average in the last 3 games, and they want to ride this out, and then if he gets another hit, we'll put him on the Wheaties box. But the thing that the problem that I have with this is so stupid that it's almost like, yeah, okay, Jeff McNeil maybe 5 years ago can do this and it would be considered something that they would do, but we're in a position now where we don't need to do this garbage gimmick of putting guys out of position for no reason for the sake of just building a team. I think that there's resources as to where they can just put guys in their primary position. Obviously, injuries fault that, but I don't think it goes to a certain extreme where Jeff McNeil should be the everyday center fielder because of his bat, because they need the bat in the lineup, which his bat hasn't been good for the past 2 years. And if you want to tell me that he was good in the second half, fantastic. Good to know. But again, another piece of the logic. They brought in Jose Siri because he's such a great defender to kind of protect the ground that Juan Soto couldn't cover. A defensive outfield of Nimmo, McNeil, and Soto. Are you fucking kidding me? Are you nuts? You might as well put Winker out there. Put Winker out there in center. Just stupid.
Yeah.
Marte in center field. This is what I mean. They have so many of these corner guys or guys who just can't play defense in general, where I'm like, okay, well, Tyrone Taylor's not great. And yes, he has not been fantastic in center field, but it's okay, that's fine. Make a decision here. Make a decision. And again, I just don't think Brett Beatty is worth that roster spot as to where he needs to stay here and guys need to move over to center field. With Acuna in center field, fine. If you want to try it, go ahead and try it. And it could be some kind of a spark in that way. I don't have Drew Gilbert in that conversation just yet. I still think he needs to get some more AAA Bs and just condition himself better because he's had some injuries in the past. the thing that I have here is I'm trying not to overreact to Taylor's bad play in center field in the middle of April, because we have seen things before that we've seen him play good center field before. We've seen him play the good corners before. I'm not saying that he's your only option, but I'm also saying that he's not a complete klutz out there, because right now, yes, he hasn't made some great plays, but that doesn't define him completely as a defender in the middle of April. I think that it's more of just the fact that, what have you done for me lately? What you did for me lately was spike a throw and miscue or this, or had a miscue or whatever. But like, you can't just tell me that, oh, well, this one play defines you as a player and we got to take you out completely. Because if that was the case, they would have traded him already. They would have gotten rid of him already. So again, I think that right now, with Tyrone Taylor's ability in center field, it's not something that I'm completely weighing on, because there has been some boneheaded decisions he's made this year. But I don't think that it's going to long-term, go forward, hurt this team defensively in center field. I still trust him with the center field reins with what he has done. If you want to put Acuna in there, fine, because Jeff McNeil's natural position at second base, because at best, he's a second baseman. He's a second baseman. Second baseman. He's not an outfielder anymore. He's not a third baseman anymore. He's not your emergency catcher anymore. Tyrone Taylor's your emergency catcher. We heard that from Carlos Mendoza. If Jeff McNeil's going to be in this lineup, it only makes sense for him to be at second base. Do I want Jeff McNeil in this lineup in general? Absolutely not. But at some point, we have to establish Nimmo, as much as they want to put him in center field, and they've considered him as a possibility in center field, I don't want that. I just don't want that. Keep him in left field. Just keep him there. For me, a center fielder has to be a good athlete, a good arm, and good range. Something that is not really in the repertoire of Brandon Nimmo. Something that we don't know with Jeff McNeil, because he's not played center field. And we've also have seen the fact that, Luis Angel Acuna, the lack of the experience. I understand utility is important, but they're going to have to make a decision here. Do I want a Zokar in center field playing every day? No, I don't want him there. I feel like there's negatives and positives of everything, and I feel like that's sounding like, and I get it, saying that I'm too picky. Yeah, kind of. I'm kind of articulating in the way that, like, well, this guy's here. What is the best combination? I just don't think they have that combination right now, and they're kind of floundering for it. And listen, I think that Jeff McNeil is a second baseman right now. Does he suck at second? No. Has he regressed at second? Yeah. But again, the terms of the value of Jeff McNeil, and made saying his value to this team, I guess it'll just have to all unfold when he comes back, and we'll see how they go from there. But they are going to have to make some tough decisions as to where, well, we want to keep this guy. We like him. We want to see this guy. You look at it. Look at his face. He's so cute. Like, move on. Well, move on. You got to move on from somebody. Like, you can't have 9 infielders and 2 outfield. Like, you can't. You got to figure out it in some way. Like, okay, yeah, these guys can play the position in a pinch, but whatever. Instead of being too picky, why don't you enjoy how well your team is playing? Because this show would suck. Anyways. Speaking of a position, I want to talk about one more, and that being the catching position, because we know that even though Francisco Alvarez is not going to be activated for this series, eventually he's going to be activated at the pace that he is going. He is doing a rehab assignment right now. He's in Double-A Binghamton. And I do want to talk about the other guy who has been a huge impact for this team in Luis Torrens. I think from all different sides of the ball, we have seen Luis Torrens really be a factor into why this team has been winning. Has he been the main factor? No. I think he's been a huge silent factor, and I do want to go over what he has been doing for this team because I think it does go a little bit unnoticed as to where, and it's going to open up a few questions. I think Frank is kind of foaming out the mouth at one of these questions, but I think it's easy to call him a silent savior in this way. Now, these hitting stats are a little bit skewed. I think this was before the last game that he played. He pinch hit or something yesterday for Hayden Sanger. But an overall slash line that goes out to, on the OPS scale of a 107 rated weighted runs created plus from the bottom part of the lineup. He has a home run. He's been very good situationally, slashing 385, 429, 615 with runners in scoring position. He has posted a over 1,400 OPS in high leverage situations. He's hitting the ball harder than almost anybody on this team besides Pete Alonso, maybe Nimmo at some points, maybe Juan Soto until he gets into it. But again, he still has played a decent amount. He has 52 plate appearances under his belt. It might be about like 56 at the current moment. Again, he has been very good situationally, filling things in as a role player. And if you guys need a reminder on how we got this guy, for what the impact has been, even just excluding from just his offensive play, he was acquired from the Yankees on May 31st, which was the time of the Mets turnaround last year, for $100,000 in cash, which is basically just, I don't know, pennies on the dollar in baseball terms. Now, the main big piece of impact has always been the defense of Luis Torrens. And of course, overall, with the pitching being as so good, it does come to find out with these guys not being as stuff monsters as they are in the rotation. Mets pitchers have posted a 2.09 earned run average in 112 innings with him behind the plate. Of course, the main piece of value has been his arm, where he has thrown out 18 base runners since becoming a Met out of 38 stealing attempts, which is first among catchers at a 47.4% success rate. There have been a lot of situations this year where Luis Torrens has come through for this team in the biggest ways possible. And I don't think that is an easy thing to ignore, even with the guy that you know is your guy of the future in Francisco Alvarez. So what I'm going to ask to you, Frank, and I want full emotion here. Bring it to me. It's hard to ignore what Luis Torrens has been doing for this team. How big of an impact it has been. Obviously, Alvarez is seen still as the starting catcher, and it would be his job to lose no matter what. But I don't think you can just say, well, Alvarez is back. Bye-bye, Luis Torrens. Not even just him offensively, him defensively, with how rough it has been in the infield, with the defensive miscues and all of this. He's been holding it down behind the plate. Sanger's going to be a casualty, obviously, when Alvarez comes back. But Luis Torrens has been productive, and I don't think you can just say he's a pure backup catcher that plays once every, 6 days and, can say, oh, he's just a defensive guy, because he's contributing a lot. And I feel like he's definitely an unspoken hero. I understand the development of Francisco Alvarez, but Luis Torrens is making his case. He's played very, very well since he's come here. So I know this is a sore subject for someone who's as big of a Francisco Alvarez fan as you are, but you can't deny how good he has been for this team since the very beginning.
Yeah, I mean, Torrens is great. It's a shame that he doesn't play like, I don't know, center field or third base or left field or second base, like a position the Mets are struggling at, because, like you said, it is going to be a tough decision. But when I look at Torrens, I mean, what I find very fascinating is that, a lot of people think, oh, well, here's a guy who, like you said, he came from the minor leagues with the Yankees and with Pittsburgh before that. And it's like, oh, well, he's not actually this good. This is probably just luck, right? Well, no. You showed the numbers of Torrens and you look at the expected numbers. He's actually, with the way he's been hitting the ball, he's expected to be way better than that. I mean, you look at like what his XBA should be. Like, he's got an expected batting average of 330. Like, if anything, the guy's getting unlucky and he's still playing this well. But it's because, like you said, he's hitting the ball extremely hard. You talk about 94th percentile in all of baseball, 92nd percentile in barrel percentage. So he is just hitting the ball really hard. And it's just going to be very interesting with a team that has struggled so much with runners in scoring position. The only two guys that have been great with runners on base is Pete Alonso and Luis Torrens. So, like, how is that whole situation going to go when, like, the one other good guy you have with runners on base is now going to be on the bench? And for me, I mean, this is just my opinion. With the way it has gone so far this season, I would strongly consider keeping Luis Torrens the starting catcher and making Alvarez the DH, because that combination of Winker and Marte has just been so bad that at least I get some offense from the position while still having really good defense at the catcher position. So, like the old commercial said, why not both? Because at the rate it's going, you should put your best 9 players out there as consistently as you can. And right now, Winker and Marte are not one of your best players. And it's really hard to just kind of lose that advantage you would have. Like you said, the number one catcher at throwing out base runners, to just say, you know what, let's take that element off the team. Ooh, it doesn't feel right. Like it just feels wrong. It feels weird to do that, because you're talking about caught stealing above average. 100th percentile. Like, this is not something he just did last season. He's doing it again this season. So, like, this is for real. He is throwing out base runners. That is what he does. And like we say, he's hitting the ball hard, hitting with runners on base. And what I find very interesting is that today in the Mets lineup, they moved him up. He is now batting 6th tonight. So he's batting after Winker. And, who's got a better game today? Is it Torrens or Winker? Because he's moving his way up. So it's like, does he bat 5th pretty soon? Is he the cleanup hitter that we need as another guy with runners on base? Because it's like, if he's so good runners on base, why not give him more opportunities? Why not move him up in the order? He's hitting the ball so hard. Why not? Because so many of the other guys on this team have not given you reason to move them up, have not shown you quality results with runners on base. Meanwhile, he has. So it's like, I want to build off that. I want to, reward him for that. So for me right now, I would like to have both of them out there.
I really am trying so hard to give the benefit of the doubt with this situation, because it's not as simple, because again, Luis Torrens has earned his playing time, and I don't think that should change when Alvarez comes back. But when it comes to the sake of just the development of Alvarez, I'm not trying to just sledge him into the DH position, because I think there is a point of, if you are making this lineup, let's say you are facing a lefty, you want to get that extra right-handed bat in there. You don't really have that many starts against lefties to establish Luis Torrens as the catcher, because he's a right-handed bat, even though he's hitting both platoons well. If you want to put against a right-hander, putting Alvarez just behind the plate against a right-hander, and then putting in Jesse Winker, who's had some good ABs this year, just not consistently, that's fine. I think that I do think that the days off they give to Alvarez, he should be DHing, because I don't think that there's really anything stopping him. But there's also the fact that Luis Torrens should be playing more than just once a week to give Alvarez rest. So it's going to be interesting to see how they do that. And maybe it is going to be more of a 50-50 because of how, they want to kind of not have Alvarez behind the plate every single day because the injury was to his catching hand. So it's not like they're going to completely go full force with him here. And that's probably the main reason as to why Torrens will still get some playing time in that matter. I want to see how they do balance that out. David Stearns was asked about it just now because he is actually in a press conference giving his comments, saying that Francisco Alvarez would definitely be the Mets starting catcher upon his return. He's saying, I think we have two catchers we feel really good about. Mendy's going to decide who plays every day and who gives the best chance to win. We certainly think Alvy's going to be a huge part of that. And I think that this is a discussion that is so great to have, especially compared to the past where we were talking about, we should give Tomas Nido playing time over James McCann, even though both of them suck. This is a lot better of a conversation to have. Torrens has been a quality player ever since he came to the Mets. Francisco Alvarez, lots of upside. We know what he is capable of, and hopefully he does develop into that player. And we'll see how they find that balance. So it is whatever. I'm curious to see how they do that, but I don't think that Luis Torrens' impact behind the plate or at the plate now should be completely ignored. And I will say, hitting habits, not overall power and overall explosiveness, and overall show, the overall hitting prowess that he has and hitting habits have been better as a Met as compared to Francisco Alvarez in the major leagues. And I don't think that that's a hot take. Sorry. And whether, again,
he's putting together quality at bats. I mean, he's working counts. He's using all fields. I mean, he really has. He's hitting the ball hard, like you said. As far as habits, the process, everything is correct that he's doing at the plate. He's doing everything right. And with Alvarez, we still don't know what that new swing is. I mean, that's the thing to not forget. Like, this is a guy that's doing a different stance every month, and now has a very different swing than he did in the past.
Sounds like someone else I know.
Yeah, well, listen, that swing has brought
He'll
him
be back
power.
too, don't worry.
I know. That swing has given him power, but the contact has not been the same. So, maybe he's got more contact now. It's still going to be an up and down experience. And with his defense, we know that he has good moments, bad moments. So, like you said, I think, especially considering the injury to the catching hand, if you want to do like a 65 to, that's like Alfred's got 65% of the playing time or 70% for now. I'm good with that as far as catcher with some DH. So he's still working on that swing and still getting those reps in the major league level so that he is ready to be full go, especially if Winker and Marte continue to struggle. So, that could be the way they go. But I think like, Stearns is saying, like, Mendy has the final say, and if Torrens is significantly outplaying him, I think Torrens is going to get more playing time. I don't think he's just going to go totally, you're just not going to see him anymore. So he's another one like Acuna where like these games are going to be very interesting to watch as far as like, Torrens is still trying to show that he's like, wait a minute, like I could still stay in this lineup. So I'm very interested to see how he does tonight, especially moving up in the order in that 6th spot. Maybe gets more opportunities, maybe not, because of the two guys in front have been not very good. So I am interested, though, that they are rewarding him. It is going noticed by the manager that he is moving up in the order, and we'll see how it pays off.
I mean, we'll see how they do split this thing across. I don't think, again, it's probably just more of what they're teaching to these catchers of where you want them to just frame pitches, obviously, because anything that you can get into the zone and trying to get chases, it's obviously more of the efficient way with pitchers now, so the blocking is not great. The blocking was a massive problem for Alvarez. He was one of the worst among catchers last year with that. Ken's saying that Alvarez cannot throw anybody out. I don't think that this is going to be a problem continuously. I still think he's going to get better at it only just because I know that he can get that ball out of his hand very, very quick. So he's going to find that median eventually. He is still young. You don't see typically a 23-year-old catcher in the major leagues. So that's something that I'm willing. Blocking, different story. Not great. But again, hopefully, I'm hoping, okay, that you have less of wild pitches and less of bouncing balls into the dirt than you did last year, where this entire pitching staff was just walking the entirety of the ballpark, and they were walking some of the fans in the stands as well. So that's how bad it was. So hopefully we have a little bit more competitive pitches as to where the blocking is not going to be on full display. I am willing to trust what Alvarez does defensively, but again, Luis Torrens, it's so hard to ignore what he has been able to do, because there has been plenty of instances where he has saved this team's ass, not just with runners on the base paths, but also the fact that there has been a few plays where infielders have overthrown him and he's slapped the tag down. There has been instances where, one point there's been instances where one point we can say that he bailed out the offense. Like there's been times where we can specifically say this. Now, the best way to wrap up this entire Cardinals series is obviously with everyone's favorite segment. But before we do go into that, I just want to talk about one thing that went on going into this series, and that was Phil Maton. Phil Maton decided to open his mouth, say it was personal that nobody signed him as quickly as they did, and he ended up getting, $2 million from the Cardinals. He had not given up a single run throughout the entire year going into this series, and in 2 of these games, he ended up blowing the game, giving away crucial runs. I guess, he's already gone because the Cardinals are traveling somewhere else. But welcome back, jackass. I don't know. That was pretty funny to me, to be honest, for him to go to the New York Post and say that. We all know our problem with him. It was his playoff performance, and he was one of the main reasons as to why the bullpen did struggle. I found some good joy in that, especially Luis Torrens, who we were just talking about. I was about to say it. I said it on Twitter when it did happen, what was in the first game or the second game or whatever. Luis Torrens caught Phil Maton a lot when he got here. So I wouldn't have been surprised if he broke through. And he ended up breaking through with an RBI double.
And who was the best batter against Severino when they faced him? Luis Torrens. So he pays attention to what he's doing with his pitchers.
It's almost like when we've seen Jan Gomes beat up on Max Scherzer, we've seen James McCann do well against Justin Verlander, I'm pretty sure, before when they were in Detroit together or whatever. Like there's things where, I think at one point, like the catcher-pitcher relationship, I think we have to realize how attached to the hip this relationship is in this game. Like the battery is very, very crucial in that way. And if the catcher knows and is facing them, that's just one of, those factors of a great, that's just one of those factors of a great piece of the pitcher catcher relationship and how in-depth it is. But also, Maton definitely on his way out was not great. So let's see how that all gets established going forward. I don't know who else he has caught in his history. I don't know. Has he caught anybody on the Yankees when he was with the Yankees? I don't know. Maybe he caught some of these
Well,
guys.
he was in the minors, but I think the interesting match would be if they face the Brewers, they face Quintana, because Quintana's been great with Milwaukee. So, I mean, that'd be a game I'd start him and see how that goes if he continues this trend.
It just continues to be one of those things, because like, even though it never really happened, we just played the Cardinals, so it's good and good theme. Even though it never happened because they were always teammates throughout their entire careers, if you see Adam Wainwright on there, you're like, and you have as your opponent, and you have Yadier Molina, you're going to be like, okay, this guy's batting third for me right now, because he knows that he knows, like, left and right,
Yeah, one more thing with Adam Wainwright. He did the game on Saturday, and I doubt you noticed this, because only someone like me would notice this. Did you see the part when they were talking about the City Food Field, and Adam Wainwright had like this big tray of a bunch of food? Did you see that part?
I don't know. I don't. I have not a good memory on those.
So when this happened, he had a hot dog with mustard on it, and Adam Wainwright showing the food. And the hot dog slid right off the plate, fell on his white shirt, and then he had a nice thing of mustard right on his side. And I was like, man, that looked like an Adam Wainwright curveball falling right on him. So it doesn't make up for 06, but I got a chuckle at seeing some mustard on that guy's shirt, because, man, I could not stand that guy.
Well, I mean, if it was almost perfect. I mean, I do know that he was just yapping the whole time about his Cardinals. He was like, oh, he was starting up his love affair with Steven Matz. He's like, this guy, we're Mets fans, dude. We know Steven Matz.
Broadcast. It was not national. It was not a great one, no.
Yeah, the national one with Adam Wainwright on there, he was just going with it, Steven Matz, man. Like, okay, listen, I am not trying to be impolite in there, but you're saying this in front of Mets fans. We know what Steven Matz has done as a Met as well. He was a Met. He was drafted by the Mets. So if you're just going to sit here and lie your ass off about how him having some of the nastiest stuff as a left-hander, we know that's not true. We know it isn't true. Okay? Whether you feel about Steven Matz or whatever, there's a reason why he was traded before Steve Cohen even came in here. I don't think the sale wasn't even approved. It was one of the first things they did. It was one of the first things they did. Yeah. So again, I'm like, dude, it's Steven Matz. I'm sure he's a fine pitcher. I'm sure he's become okay. But like, come on, man. Like, what would he be doing here? Anyways, Mets Cardinals. Best way to recap this series, the best way that we know how, is with our favorite segment, of course, that being studs and duds. One player that was good in this series, and there's plenty to look at, because it was a 4-game set, so plenty of events that happen. Like we said, we haven't talked in a lifetime through a 4-game set. And then one player that was not great in this series, and we would like to, hold them accountable for that. Or as some guy in a chat would usually say, just hate them. Okay.
We don't want to do that. No, we
don't want to do that. No. Criticism is great, and listen, criticism is whatever. But if you can dish it out and can't take it, that's your problem. Anyways, speaking of, Frank, I'll go to you. Your stud for this series.
This is an interesting one, because, like you said, it was a 4-game set. So, like, some guys had, like, great games in there, and then other games really weren't as good. The guy that was going to get it when the series started was Vientos, because he had started off with the home run going to the opposite field, just barely got over the wall. It just hit the foul pole. So I was glad to see him at least get one over the fence and just help his confidence, because then he followed up with the home run the next day. So, I mean, he was off to a great start, but then he missed the rest of the series. So I want to give it to him. The other guy that is really in consideration is Lindor. I mean, he had a 3-hit game in game 1. a 3-hit game in game 4, including a home run to get them started. And then he had a hitless game, but then also one of the other games he did hit another home run. So overall, because he was there for all 4, I'll give it to Lindor. But I really did want to give it to Vientos because I was glad to see him start to get those home runs, because we saw, like I said before, the frustration is very visible. Like, you could see him getting like annoyed that he was not playing well. So I feel like just seeing him start to string together some home runs, I feel like it would help him relax and you see him be more like himself. But then he goes down early in the game, and we're not sure if he's able to build off it yet. So we still have to kind of wait and see where he's at. But those are the guys that really stood out the most to me.
Yeah. Listen, I think Lindor at this point, it's great to see him producing in April, because we know that there is a trend here. It doesn't seem like he's fully in form yet, but it also just leaves you more left to be shown, I think, at this point, because we know what he is capable of. We'll see, like we said with the lineup construction, we'll see how long it goes. Anyways, but when it comes to my stud, I actually do, even though we did talk a little bit about him earlier, I want to give this to Griffin Canning because of just the fact that he was able to muscle through the six innings. Also kept them in the game. And it seemed like when they played this thing batter to batter, he was getting a lot better deeper into this game. It didn't seem like he was really losing his, effectiveness. I don't know where the hell that came from. It didn't seem like, we saw a completely different pitcher after a certain amount of up downs. It seemed like it was a very consistent start. And from start to finish, he was able to get those chases, able to expand the zone, and also just completely put batters away as well, specifically with the fastball, because he got a decent amount of swings and misses on the fastball. Now, obviously, his fastball is not his best pitch, even though he is getting those results with it. It's more of just basically the overall arm angle that he throws at, the overall shape of his pitch. It's something that if he does not locate it properly to a certain degree, it's going to get crushed. Haven't seen it got crushed yet. Has Griffin Canning, let me ask one thing. How many homers has Griffin Canning given up?
This season, I actually think he might have given up 1, I want to say. He gave up 2. I feel like they were both, I think at least one was in Houston. I remember just got
he's
over
given
the
up
wall.
2. Yeah.
So right now he's at 2.
Yeah, so he's given up 2. I'm pretty sure of the last 2 seasons, he's given up like 53. So again, listen, I think we're on a good pace here. So again, it's all really just about overall limiting the barrel, not just the overall hard contact, because again, the contact management is whatever. But again, if you're able to get those innings from him and you're able to have him throw a pitch in the 6th inning, giving up 2 home runs, I mean, again, like in 4 starts, I will take that. Especially from the salary that he gave him. They gave him, what was it, $4.25 million. Anything from that, I don't know, 3-run ball range is fine with me. And I think that he did a really, really good job setting the tone for this series of how the Mets were going to pitch to some hot Cardinals hitters this year. And we know, they started off pretty hot, this Cardinals offense. A lot of guys in that lineup. Is Canning velos up? I saw 95. He's touched 96 a few times this year.
His average is still the same as last year, though. On the fastball, it's still 93.4.
Well, yeah, which is fine. Which is fine, especially if he's pairing it up with a slider that is a plus pitch. His changeup is really good as well. So
slider's his most used pitch.
It's all about the utilization.
It's 50-50 with the fastball. And then as far as like the cutter, 2%, curveball, 2%, sinker, 1%. So he technically has 6 pitches, but really just uses 3 of them. So it's been very interesting to see the way he's approached his starts.
Yeah, these are pronated pitchers, the guys who spin the ball in a certain direction. And it creates that deception even without a certain amount of arm angle, which is also an arm angle that can be really picked up by left-handed hitters. And I think that the splits have been good with him, like lefties and
what's
righties.
interesting is that like he throws the four-seamer, the sinker, and the changeup towards like the inside of the right-handed hitters, but then the slider, the curveball, the cutter
both
is more
homers
breaking
have been
left.
both homers have been to right-handed hitters, and it seems like he
Okay.
gives up more to lefties in his career. So I mean, I don't know. I feel like the adjustments are very visible for him, and it's all really just maintaining a pitch count that's good enough to continue. Yeah, the Mets couldn't fix Mike Vassell, but they fixed Griffin Canning. Vassel's a different story.
Yeah.
It's again, it's all really just more of how they want to, it's all really just how they want to have this certain amount of pitch sequencing. It doesn't all have to be completely flashy for them to piece these things together. And I think with the health of these starting pitchers these days, it's all really just about sticking to something that's efficient and not something that's fantastic and dazzles off the page. Because you can have all the talent in the world, if you don't execute things properly, you're still going to get beat no matter what. Because we've seen some of the best stuff in the game. Even they have some shitty outings. I mean, we've seen guys like Corbin Burns have rough outings, which every Mets fan wanted this offseason. We've seen guys like Dylan Cease have bad outings. I mean, we've seen some really, really bad outings for a lot of these guys. Speaking of bad outings, great segue there. How about a dud for this series? All yours.
Yeah, I'm going to have to go with one of those DHs. This time it's going to be Jesse Winker. I mean, he was 0 for 6 in the series. And still, what I'm not liking is with the 2 strikes, taking the fastballs over the plate, and then arguing with the umpire. It's like, dude, what are you looking for? Like, why are you complaining to the umpires that you're the ones taking fastballs over the plate and like expecting something else? And it's not quite there, but he's getting in that territory, Carson, of a left-handed DH who does not want to move the bat off his shoulders. It's getting there. It's getting there. It's frustrating.
Relax.
Some of these at-bats with men on, too, like, it is frustrating that your DH, the guy's a designated hitter, is not hitting the ball. So I'm just saying, some frustrating ABs. He's not there yet, but it's been a tough watch.
Yeah. Listen, Winker hasn't been great. Neither has Marte. We already talked about this platoon already. I much rather would just, if it was a option between these guys, I would just pretty much start Winker and put him in the bottom part of the order. But it's just, I like, again, we said that this was going to be a weak platoon, and they still went ahead and did it anyway. So hopefully, I'm hoping that they do address this at the deadline. But now is not the time to discuss things like that. I am going to go to Jose Budo on this one. I think you said, what was it called? I think you had him as your dud last week. It's all just about the sequencing, like we've said, the slider usage, too much of that. He needs to realize that the fastball changeup, which are pitches that tunnel, is the main reason as to why he built success in the major leagues in the first place. So let's go back to the obvious. Your changeup is a good pitch. Your fastball has a good amount of shape. Let's utilize that. Don't need to go to a slider. Don't need to get fancy or anything. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. That's kind of how it is. And that's what I'm not trying to go down that Chase and Shreve type of rabbit hole with pitch usage, and just leaving things over the plate and being overconfident with things, and then just getting completely shelled in the process. As for some of the questions in this chat, I do want to go into one more. Obviously, like we said, with this DH platoon, saying opinions on playing Marte more to get him going, Winker off the bench. I don't want to play either of them at this current moment. Winker, I think, gives you a better chance to win. I think that he's the better option. Marte, I don't see anything. Like, I don't think that this guy seems like he's just mailing it in at this point. And then we've said this already. But it's a weak platoon, like we've said, and it's not great at all. It's not good, and it's hurting the lineup. We know it is. I cannot wait to actually get an actual legitimate DH in this lineup. Who that may be, who knows? I have a few guys in mind. But it's really just a crapshoot at this moment. I still would play Winker in there, but I'm not saying that Winker is going to be the ultimate world beater. I just think he's a better option than Marte, and that really does not say much at this current moment. And it really, really just shows, considering how many right-handed DHs they've actually had this year. They've had Vientos DH, they've had other guys DH this year. It just shows you how useless of a roster spot this is. But hey, what do I know? You're in this situation. No one warned you, right? I didn't warn them at all. This is just the points of the lineup. It's like, when I hear well, the bottom of the lineup's not doing anything. And why is that? Why is that? Nobody wants to answer that.
Yeah, they're not good. And also, for his career, Marte is not a good pinch hitter. So that's another thing you have to consider, too, is that if you start Winker and your plan is to bring Marte off the bench, he's not good off the bench for his career. So, and that's even when he was good. So I don't think it's going to get better now.
I am expecting absolutely nothing from Starling Marte. That's literally how it is. Now, we're going over the times, of course, a little bit with our show, but I do want to get to, obviously, this upcoming series, which will be starting in about 2 hours from when we are live as of right now. And that would be the upcoming series with the Philadelphia Phillies, who are 2 games behind the Mets for first place in the National League East. And even though it's April, you don't really have a chance to bury them right now because it's the middle of April, but you do have the opportunity, after the last impression you have made in the National League Division Series, to shove them in a locker. You do have the opportunity to do that, and hopefully they do take advantage of it. Now, obviously, for the overall upcoming series probables, Tyler McGill is going to make the start tonight against Aaron Nola, who we have seen many times against the Mets have a very, very good career against them. He has struggled so far, so I'm sure that these bats will help him get back on the horse because they like to troll against Aaron Nola all the time. I'm not bitter whatsoever when they play him. Anyways, that will be at 7:10 tonight. 7:10 tomorrow night, Griffin Canning will make yet another start. It will be up against Christopher Sanchez. That will be one of the few lefties that they have faced this year. They haven't faced him that much. So we will see how they construct that as well. Griffin Canning looking to build off of a 6-inning performance, like I said, for the first game of this series. And then game 3, it's lined up as of right now for David Peterson, but we don't know completely. And he will go up against, or maybe we will go up against our old pal, Zach Wheeler, who is off to a pretty decent start to the season. A few notes that I do want to make about this series. Bryce Harper, red hot, scorching hot right now to start the year. Kyle Schwarber, shit wrecker. We know that he is. I don't want to make the joke that everyone does make on Twitter and social media, but Nicholas Castellanos, listen, whatever. For the heck of it, the Pope did die today. So again, I'm not saying that it is a joke that we should make, but it has to be put out there, right? We know that the story of the last series that they played in the division series, the Mets beat the living crap out of their bullpen, out of the Phillies bullpen that was good all year. This year, especially recently, the Phillies bullpen has been a disaster. Aside from, Alvarado has
And Strom.
obviously, Strom have been good. But the rest of that bullpen has really, really, really struggled. So again, trying to make the starter not go 8 innings would be fantastic. We know that we have Nola, who we know can go deep into games if you get him on a roll. We know that Christopher Sanchez is quite a rubber arm as well. And then, of course, Zach Wheeler, who can eat innings like it's crazy. So, again, got to find a way to knock them out of this game. Some other things that you're looking forward to, Frank, or not looking forward to in this series. 2 games behind us. All we have to do is win 1 to maintain it at the end of the series, to maintain first place. But I would like to see a little bit more than that. I'd like to see the continuance of Philly getting destroyed by us, because we've seen them put us in a hurt locker before.
Yes, no, it's been it's always an interesting time when you face the Phillies. Some more guys to go over. Like I said, Bryson Stott moved up to Leo's spot, playing better. Trey Turner's gone off to a slow start. He's in the 2-hole, so he's sandwiched in between Stott and Harper.
Do we give him an ovation?
I wouldn't. I'm not cheering Trey Turner. Another guy who has had some interesting interaction with the crowd in his career, Alec Bohm, especially in the Philly crowd I'm talking about. He's hitting 177, so he's another guy. How is he going to get it going? Real Muto, been a struggle for him. Is he going to get going? But to your point, Castellanos, he's been their best hitter. He's hitting 319, so he's been doing really good. But more so, like, when you look at the pitching department, Nola is, like, always the wild card when it comes to facing the Mets. Like you said, we've seen him be awful against the Mets, but we've seen him be amazing against the Mets. So,
yes.
Which Nola will get tonight, I'm very interested. Don't swing at that curveball when it's going in the dirt. So I'm glad that Winker is one. If one game you're going to start Winker, I'm glad it's today, because he's not going to swing in general. So when Nola's trying to get chases, trying to get out of jams or runs on base by throwing that curveball in the dirt, don't swing. So I'm glad that we'll have Winker out there to at least protect that. But like you said, these are guys that work deep into the game. I feel like Wheeler in the daytime is always just impossible. So I'm not looking forward that game is at 1 o'clock. I feel like he's tough to beat as is, but I feel like in the daytime is even worse. As we know, you have to get him in the first inning. If you don't get Wheeler in the first inning, good luck, because once he gets on a roll, he's on a roll. And he hasn't been as good this season. He did have a rough outing where he got beat up pretty bad. So, we'll see. Christopher Sanchez, just another solid pitcher. That's what this Phillies team is built on. They're built on their rotation. And the guy with the lowest ERA, the 2 guys with the lowest ERA, Jesus Luzardo, he's a lefty. The Mets are not seeing him in the series. Then the other guy with the lowest ERA, Taijuan Walker. The Mets are not seeing him either. So, they're facing a tough rotation, but it could have been worse. So they're lucky that they're escaping that. But like you said, it's a tough rotation. If somehow you could work the pitch count, get to their bullpen, that's the key to being the Phillies. And be careful to Harper, be careful to Schwarber. We go over it a ton, but those are the guys to really keep an eye out for. And one of the other things I'm very fascinated by is how they utilize A.J. Minter. Because at first, we thought this is what he was brought in for. Face the big lefties, face the Harpers, face the Schwarbers. But Minter so far has strictly been an 8th inning guy for the Mets. And if it's me, and it's like, let's say that Harper, Schwarber are due up in the 7th, I would go Minter in the 7th and then have Stanek pitch the 8th, and then whatever Diaz does the 9th, we'll see. That's how I would approach it. But, the Mets have been pretty consistent with Minter does the 8th. So I'm curious to see if they're willing to change it up depending on the matchup. So this would be a very good test. Like I said, they're playing a top 10 team. It's the Phillies, it's the division, so there's always a lot that goes with it. And I'm just really interested to see how it goes.
Bryce Harper is 2 for 14 in his career against A.J. Minter. So maybe that is one of the keys.
Minter, though.
We also have Danny Young here, who also throws left-handed and could be a huge factor.
We might as well get Sean Gilmore while we're at it.
Yeah. And Harper's 1 for 4 against him.
Against Danny Young? Wow. Yeah. There you go. There's your secret weapon.
Yeah. 4 over 4 fielding independent pitching for Taijuan Walker. That's what I thought. Okay. Anyways, great. Anyways, so yeah, you're facing the front part of this rotation that has been, I guess, okay. Again, they are built on a better rotation. It was seen as the rotation that the Mets can't beat in this situation. So I'm looking to the top guys. I'm looking to Juan Soto. That would be nice for him to, I don't know, maybe get your first home run at Citi Field. Alonso, keep it going. I don't know who's going to be behind you, backing you up, because Vientos doesn't look like he's playing in this first game. Lindor,
clean up tonight.
Yeah, Nemo's batting cleanup tonight. Lindor, I know, has a rough past against Nola as well. If I can look this one up.
And Estevez is not a Philly anymore either. That's another piece that we were talking about them earlier in their bullpen. They don't have Estevez anymore. They don't have Hoffman anymore. And they brought in Romano. He's been awful. So it's not quite the same Phillies bullpen as it was before.
Yeah. Francisco Lindor has a career .551 OPS against Aaron Nola, 7 for 33. So he struggled against Aaron Nola. I'm going to guess it's a lot of the breaking balls as well. He's also hit him many times before as well, which is odd. And he's never homered against Aaron Nola, especially. Anyways, Pete has a ton of homers against Aaron Nola. He also has a ton of strikeouts against Aaron Nola.
He's faced them a lot. I mean,
he has faced them a lot.
Here,
so
Nola's been here, so
it's been a battle between those two. There's been battles that he's won, and there's been battles that Aaron Nola has won. But he does have a good career against him. That is correct. But he also has struck out 14 times against him. So we'll see how he approaches this. Hopefully, more disciplined Pete. We'll see how many pitches he does get to hit with the protection of this lineup, since they're a little bit shorthanded with Mark Vientos not in the lineup. And yes, I know Mark Vientos is not playing well, but he still is a threat at the plate.
He killed the Phillies last year. So
he did kill the Phillies last year. So. Where's Mark Canha when you need him? Speaking of killing the Phillies, right? But either way, some other things in terms of the Phillies bullpen. We'll see how the matchups go. Like we said, I'm really, really hoping that obviously with the rotation, we know that these guys can go deep into games, but once they come out of the game, and once you give them a chance to pull them out of the game, they do need to capitalize on these situations with runners in scoring position, because the situational hitting is going to be very, very important against this bullpen, because not only has it been struggling, but it also has been struggling to throw strikes. So some of these uncompetitive swings and these uncompetitive ABs, there shouldn't be that many of them. If they're not going to give you a pitch to hit, don't fucking swing. Please, don't be waving at things. We know that from the other side, we know that their discipline as a team has definitely improved a little bit. We'll see how the Mets can expand the zone that way. Tyler McGill, I'm looking at you. Let's see how we can, this is going to be one of his biggest tests to see if this is actually legit, what he has been doing. The underlying numbers for Tyler McGill have been solid so far. Last year around this time, they weren't. So we'll see if he can continue that. I know that a lot of people have been talking about him on Twitter as a possible breakout candidate. So far, a 1.4 earned run average. So that defines him completely as a pitcher. And we don't have to say more. This is our game one starter for the World Series. So again, but either way, McGill, there's no reason to walk anybody. There's plenty of stuff that they're going to swing at. Make good pitches. That's all I have to say. Canning, I don't know how this is going to go. We'll see. But when it comes to, I don't know if it's Peterson for game 3 because it hasn't really been confirmed, but he is lined up for it. It seems like Peterson is probably, out of this entire rotation, is probably the best matchup for this Phillies team, and he has been for quite a while. He's done very well against the Phillies in his career because they've had this similar lineup for quite a while.
And he relies on Chase. He's a left-handed guy, so I mean, he's a perfect fit.
He also relies on ground balls a lot, and Philly is a very upswing type of team. I'm trying to see the overall numbers he has because I know, yeah, he's done very well against the Phillies recently. I know he started off pretty rough though, in his career, but he's done very well against them recently. So we'll see how it is. But again, it's going to be a true test as to what consistency can hold up. This is your first team that you know of notice in contention that you are playing. We also did get a report about Jose Siri from David Stearns, some other notes that we're getting from him that are coming in from his press conference saying that Jose Siri is going to miss 8 to 10 weeks with the fractured leg. We knew he was going to be out for a substantial amount of time. So again, center field is going to have to be a question that we talk about. But I think, let's see. I know it's very early, and just out of curiosity, this is a good question. Do you want to extend David Peterson this offseason? No. I don't. It has nothing to do with my history with him. It's just pitchers I'm not, I can't, I really can't see going out of my way to extend a pitcher. I think personally, like, yes, he's kept up consistency. He's developed well. But like, I also am in a situation where things need to flow better and they can't just keep on going back to the well. So if there's a price that keeps going up for somebody like David Peterson, I'm not going to completely outbid them and say that they need him strictly. And he's the only guy that can get the job done. He's been very good for them recently so far, has had a solid start to the season. But I'm not, I would not do that. I feel like the time to do that has passed. I think that once you get into the arbitration years, you know that at this point, they're going to go into free agency. It all really depends on their positional value. But with pitchers, I'd let anyone go at this point. I really would. It's just how the position is structured now. That's literally it. I don't know if that's how you feel about it. I'm not really. I feel like you can always find someone else that can take over the reins there. I don't think that David Peterson is someone who's irreplaceable in this rotation. And I feel like that's the type of guy that you see someone overpay on the market for their services. And I'm not going to an extreme with David Peterson. I'd much rather go through with the pipeline of pitchers that you go and see what they can give you.
Yeah, I mean, the hope is that, Pearson, he's had to be in the Mets rotation because they haven't really had many other options. But the hope is that there are options on the way, whether it's Sproat, Scott, McLean, Tong, Tidwell. Like, they have pitchers that slowly but surely are getting there. So you hope that once they are ready to go, that the Mets will have more rotation options compared to extending David Pearson, who then would be turning 30, already has a little bit of injury history. So we'll see. I mean, he's been solid, but the hope is that, like you said, you don't have to invest too much in pitching. The best way to do it is the internal pitching that you have, and then David Stearns finding other guys, finding your Griffin Cannings and other players like that to help fill the rotation should be enough to get it done instead of overpaying somebody. Because like you said, I mean, one of the things with Pearson too is that he's left-handed, so maybe he gets even more value on the free agent market because, as we mentioned earlier, there's less lefties that you see in the starting rotation, just generally speaking, in baseball. So maybe he has a little extra value because you look at a guy who has a 3 ERA on one team is right-handed and another guy is left-handed, David Pearson. They both have 3 ERA. Maybe David Pearson's going to get more money. So I feel like that's another thing you have to consider too when looking at the market of your players.
Yeah, I'm not looking to completely go back to the well every single time. And listen, we will have the same discussion for anybody. If Griffin Canning continues to pitch like this, he'll be a free agent at the end of the year. There's some things where I'm like, okay, yes, the guy has pitched well, but that doesn't mean he's going to continue to pitch well. And there's always things that go downstream. I've talked about Minaya being the one guy that I'd consider bringing back. They ended up bringing him back, and so far it's not looking great because he got hurt to start off the season. And that was one of the main reasons as to why. So it's, again, anything can snap at any point, and I'm not committing anything to a pitcher that is a body. David Peterson's been a good contributor for this team. He's definitely developed well. He's done a very, very, very good job into, pitching to a certain way where he can, go deeper into games. But I think that right now you're in a point where running the clock out is the best way to go. I just don't see David Peterson as the guy that I would commit to long term. It all really depends on what the price is, and I do think that he'll get a decent amount of raise in arbitration 3. What is he getting this year? It's like $5 million or whatever. We'll see how they do that, but I'm not in any really rush to really pay anyone at this current moment. And pitching, I have no trust in there. Yeah, Peterson is finally a decent number 3, but why marry him? Yeah, listen, I want to just keep the flow of this, of who's starting today, who's available today, have a bunch of guys through a committee that can help you out. And with David Stearns at the helm, he's going to be able to do that. I'm not linking myself to somebody because they gave you a piece of results that were good. And again, we're going to ask the same question about Senga. We're going to ask the same question about maybe Clay Holmes if he turns into a quality starting pitcher. We're going to ask the same thing about that. And then the new guys will come in. Everyone will tell you Stearns is an idiot. He's stupid. Why is he bringing this guy in? Look at his ERA. They'll do well. And then it's like, oh, we got to keep him. Oh, and if they don't keep him, they're stupid. And then they bring in new guys. And it's going to be a vicious cycle continuing. So it's all about what they traditionally see. And I think that right now, an extension for somebody like him, I just think right now it's just kind of unnecessary. It really has nothing to do with my thoughts about him. It really just more has to do with that position and not locking yourself into pretty much anything. Building from within, David Peterson is a homegrown guy, but I'm not going to the ends of the earth to extend somebody like that. And that's actually a really good question, though, because obviously that's more of a future topic, but we'll see how they plug some things in. Frank, if there's anything else you want to say on that topic, I think we're pretty much going to overtime here with today's episode. Obviously, Mets versus Phillies at 7 o'clock as we are currently recording this, less than 2 hours. Of course, Mets 2-game lead on the Phillies for the division. Early, it's still April, so records are not something that we're taking completely to heart, but the Mets have been on a little bit of a roll to start off this season, and hopefully they can continue it. Let's see. Who goes yard? Who goes yard tonight? Do you want to pick we could do like a home run lock for every single series. We could do something like that.
Oh, for the whole series or just for the one game?
Yeah, throughout the entire series. Who's going to hit a home run in this series? Because I think there's an easy one named Pete Alonso who could go deep.
Bet. Yeah.
But he's actually more of a contact hitter now, and I don't really like him. I'm gonna go with Brandon Nimmo to homer in this series. Somehow, some way, he's gonna do it. Yeah. And all of you are gonna shut the hell up about my king.
Yeah. So I have Soto. I think he's, like you say, he's due for a Citi Field home run. It's the Phillies. He's due. But one other guy I have a slight, little inkling might get his first, Acuna. Because last year, I was at the game where they faced Christopher Sanchez. It wasn't the playoffs, it was during the regular season. And Acuna did homer off him. So maybe he's seen him before. Maybe he could get him again. So I'll take him as like the sneaky pick.
All right. So I guess predictions as for this series. Let's say 1 out of 3, 2 out of 3, 3 out of 3. You guys can let us know in the chat of what you guys think is going to happen for this series. I'm going to go... I don't know. Usually what I say is the complete opposite. But you know what? I think right now, considering the positions that they are in, I'm going to go with the Mets sweeping this one. I'm going to say they're going to sweep this series. I think that they match up very, very well with this Phillies team, and I feel like they have their number fairly well, and they can get into these battles. And I think that they have a good answer for every single piece, every weapon that they have. Did we see it last year? Absolutely. It was half and half in the regular season. But this series, in my opinion, is the Mets to lose. That's how I view it. I think that this is the Mets series to lose. And I feel like right now, the Phillies are more desperate than the Mets to do things. And hopefully they catch them on their heels. So I'm gonna go with a sweep here. I know that I'm always seen as the negative guy and I'm always mean to everyone. But I think the Mets are gonna sweep this series. And maybe that'll change after the first pitch is thrown, and I'll be like, yeah, they're getting swept. They stink. But I think that the matchup is really, really good. This is one of the contenders that I'm like, okay, the Mets can take this team. I know they can. Frank?
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting one. Like you said, it is a very interesting matchup. For me, I'm not going to say a sweep. I'd say, if anything, Mets would take 2 out of 3, only because of the struggles they've had with the runners in scoring position and just how many guys they've left on base. I don't think that gets any easier facing this rotation. I feel like, you know what, if you're struggling hitting bad pitchers with runners on base, well, how do you do against pitchers who are actually very good in the rotation? Especially, like I said, Wheeler. I just don't see him winning game 3. I just say Wheeler in the daytime, it's just a recipe for disaster. It's the third game of the series, especially if you've already won 2. Like you said, be extra aggressive. I just don't see him taking that third game.
We'll see. But, you know, they've had some really good battles with the Phillies recently, so we'll see how that ends up. But I think we're going to wrap it up here, and we'll kind of send you guys to Citi Field, even though it's about an hour and a half left.
Yeah, you guys be waiting at the gates.
Yeah, wait at the gates. Go ahead. But yeah, Tyler McGill on the mound tonight against Aaron Nola. We'll see how the offense does. Nola's been very streaky with us. But Frank, I'll go to you for any other stuff. Any other stuff that you want to put out there going into this next series? Or
no, anytime you beat the Phillies, anytime you beat the Phillies, I mean, it's awesome. So you always want to get that done. Which is very important to remember that in 1996, Lance Johnson hit 21 triples to set the Mets record for most triples in a season. So just thought we should leave with that note.
Wow. Is he related to Jeff McNeil? What are you specifying?
I'm just saying, it'd be nice to hit some triples. You know, they're exciting playing baseball. Winker's had a few this season. Maybe he can get another triple for us. So that would definitely help us as far as face these Phillies pitchers. Hit triples.
Yeah.
Maybe Castellanos falls down.
I mean, for me, I'll just say, usually if you see yellow snow, not something that you should eat. So that's another thing. Either way, thank you guys so much for watching. We hope you enjoyed the conversation. For those of you listening, watching on playback, you want to join the conversation live in the future, make sure to subscribe to the Mets Weekly YouTube channel. Turn on those post notifications to know when we go live. Make sure to follow Mets Weekly on X and on TikTok, which feature Frank's post-game reactions following every single regular season game. Follow all of us individually, including our third co-host, Andrew, who is not here today. And of course, to finish off this homestand after a brilliant 4-game sweep against the St. Louis Cardinals, Mets-Phillies, division rival. Let's go Mets, and we will see you guys next time.